Yeah, while we're waiting for it to start, Tim, on the day of, I was watching those lightning strikes and where you were, and I was just like, oh, please God, don't get them any closer. And then they go around and they come half again closer to the north. I'm like, no, Tim, duck.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal. I mean, it wasn't very loud at any given time, but I was just kind of like, what am I gonna do? And so I bailed on the summit, which probably was a very wise idea. But anyway, it worked out. I mean, I didn't get killed, and I didn't. I got soaking wet. That's for sure. But whatever. It Brian was there, thankfully, and John, and I think I made it all the way down to six or something like that. So that was pretty cool. I was very excited.
Yep, it was totally awesome to watch.
All right, guys, we're already here at 6 minutes after time is flying. And as I said, I want to make sure I keep tabs on everyone's time. So I know there's some folks that I've never seen on the calls before. You probably know by name and by email, but may not have ever seen me. So I'm coming on camera here in just a second. So hello, everyone. Jeff Hochberg, W4JEW ringleader for Golden Packet. And thank you so much for making the time for the post-mortem event. I venture to say this event, this meeting in particular, actually is as important as the event itself, because this is the time where myself and Lynn get to provide feedback to you guys insofar as what our observations were, as well as for you guys to provide us with feedback and share your experiences verbally with others. Obviously, you guys, most of you guys turned in trip reports, and we really appreciate that. But the postmortem is something we started, I think, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and in my opinion, it gets better every year. So, it's something that I think we'll keep on doing. But it is very difficult to get this many people together and on a schedule. So I really do appreciate anybody who ended up having to shuffle things around. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Makes a huge difference. Um, just real quick agenda. So I think Lynn and I have a few things that we just want to go over insofar as just our general observations of the event. Hand it off to Lynn. He's going to do what we're calling status of the chain. We'll give, just given the number of people who are here, and the amount of time that hams like to talk, we're going to try and keep it down to 2 to 3 minutes max for each site, not each person, but each site. So for any sites, there's multiple people here representing the site, great. If there's not somebody here on the site or comes in late, we'll just kind of go back around. And then, of course, the best part about learning history is so we don't repeat it again. So this is the lessons learned, areas for improvement. Thoughts for next year. Yes, there will be Golden Packet 24, and then closing. So I think, general feeling overall walking away from this year's event is that, in comparison to last year, it was a marked improvement. There are a lot of things that went really well. We made two very significant changes to the event in terms of we completely moved a site, right? We replaced Hawksville with White Rock in as it's kind of like on West Virginia border, so I'm not sure where it actually lands. But thanks to John Huggins, who was the one that suggested White Rock Cliff, we determined last year that Hawksbill just highest peak, I think, in Virginia, but it just wasn't cutting it. We kept having problems along the mid-Atlantic region, and all of the statistics that we collected pointed to Hawksbill as being the problem child. So get rid of it. What was the point of doing it again this year? We'd likely end up with the same result. So thanks to John for suggesting White Rock Cliff. It did make a difference. Every site was staffed. Oh, and by the way, we also added another site. So we did add Sugarloaf Mountain in Maine. I think last year was the first year ever that we had issues between Mount Washington and Mount Katahdin. So normally we don't have any problems there, but I don't know. I guess maybe some ferries were flying around with magnets or whatever and affecting RF in the area. But for whatever reason, we decided that Brian was happy to go out to Sugarloaf and give us some additional presence up there in the main New Hampshire area. And that obviously helped with filling in coverage because we got really good results from up there. The amount of data that we collect every year, and this year was unprecedented. So, kudos to anyone who ran iGates. They make a huge difference in terms of providing Lynn, our Shack Potato, with data. The more that he can see, I mean, the guy's plugged into the matrix. He can tell a lot without even actually being out there. But you combine that with a phone on each ear and text messaging and email and whatever. And, the more that we can provide Lynn with, the better we are out in the field for it. And so thank you for those that ran iGates and any efforts that you put into collecting data. Lynn, do you have anything that you would like to say?
Nothing so much on the general observations. They're going to kind of come out when I go through the 4 different phases.
Sure. Well, then without further ado, I'll just keep things moving along. I hand it over to you. Just let me know when to jump to the next slide.
I'll do that. And the status of the chain is we were really, really, really close. If we would have had some different timing on the weather and some arrival times, I think we would have definitely made end to end. And just to remind everybody, there's the time windows. We're going to talk about each one of the time frames separately. And then we did have to dramatically shorten the chain due to weather towards the tail end of it. Click. The click means click. Go to the next one. There we go. So from 10 to 11 is what I do in the Shack is I watch people coming in. I watch the stations arrive. You can see some of the screen caps I have. I zoom in on each one of the stations and watch for the street GP people to get close or any mobile that happens to match the call sign. I get status updates via phone and some from Discord and some I didn't know what was going on. The South End was working in this time frame. No, the South End was working on getting Roan 3 placed so they could actually talk both ways. We saw traffic all around 5, but we never saw 5. So we were really raising some questions on what was going on at White Rock, which is why I included the little White Rock APRS capture, because KX40-9 was actually there about 5 miles away from the site about an hour before we were supposed to be setting up. So I figured he was there and just got out of coverage. The center section, Maryland Mountains was online and giving me a great feed. They were an iGate and their Digipeater working together. GD Hill was not quite there, so further north, we didn't have anything coming in on the center section. The northern section, you can see I was watching the lightning surrounding poor Tim up on Katahdin. Equinox 12 was trying to work out why his system wasn't beaconing, but people were getting the setup, what the setup was for. Go ahead to the next one. So this is actually what my screen looked like in the lower left corner. I have a multi-track window for each one of the sites. The black one is because my APRS client, the one I wrote, only lets me have 15 multi-tracks. So Katahdin had his own instance watching that one, and the black hole is where Katahdin would have been. Go ahead. So from 11 to 12, we're in the Kenwood 1200 baud mode. The South End, after Roan 3 found that sweet spot where he could reach both north and south, 0 to 4 were seeing each other. But White Rock 5, we didn't see anything from him. We didn't see anything further north from him on the south end. So we were really questioning where White Rock 5 was yet. The center section, 6 to 9, was looking pretty good. We had one report that they saw 4, which was kind of strange because we're nothing, only like one packet maybe from 4. So there might have been a little ducting there. We don't know, but nothing north of 9. So we're beginning to raise some questions about what's going on north of 9 that the center section's not getting it. North section, 11 to 15 were working. We were getting some reports from the north end that they were seeing down to 6 or 7. But when I went back and looked at the packet logs that came in through Greylock 11, I didn't really see anything to substantiate a good functioning link from the center to the north. And there was a bit of confusion in this section because there was a station called NITR 1 that was beaconing on the chain, and N4 WFP-15, which really blew people away because they thought they were copying Katahdin, but it really wasn't Katahdin. So that's a bit of confusion in that phrase. Go ahead. 9600 baud Kenwood, the south end, all of a sudden we were seeing 8 saw packets from 4. No, 4 saw packets from 8. So 8 was seen at 4, 6 was seen down at 1, which means White Rock 5 had to be online. We didn't actually see White Rock 5 packets, but we saw evidence that it must be there digipeating now that we're at 9600 baud. Center section was reporting seeing 1 to 9, but still not seeing anything north of 9. So that again said that 5 must have come online somewhere in the middle there. But still, on the north end, we're getting problems. North end sees 9 to 15, they're rock solid. So that tells me from the shack point of view, if the north is seeing 9 to 15 and the center is seeing up to 9, 9 must not be digipeating. So got a hold of him, and he was trying to verify that he was digipeating or not. And so Sam's point 9 was a big question there. Bovina had to secure way early in this phase because when he got there, well, is Bovina here to do a report? I'll save the thunder for him. Nobody jumped in to say it's me. When he got there, his permanent antenna that he always used on a tower was tone deaf, didn't hear a thing. He tried it on his mobile, picked up 1 or 2 packets and decided he wasn't going to be able to help at all. So he secured and went home. That's going to come up here at the end too. Go ahead. 1200 baud appliance. The south end had a little bit of a delayed start at one of the stations due to some antenna snafus. AO Mountain tried for half an hour to get their appliance working and ended up falling back to the D710. So the south end was kind of chaotic in the appliance phase here. Center section, 0 saw 9 saw 0 or 0 saw 9. I don't remember what my app means, but one way or the other, there was a connection between 0 to 9, but we're still not sure about the packets north of 9. And then the north end, 11 was seeing 4 to 9 on his appliance through a report, but I still didn't see any packet evidence of the sites south of 9. Then at 1320, Sam's point 9 said they had to go home. So he actually reported that back at 1413. I didn't know it in this time frame. Greylock 11 confirmed that Katahdin Tim had to bail out early due to weather, and Cummers had to secure due to rain and lightning. So weather took us out in this phase. We went ahead and decided to shut down the south chain since they were not all coming together anyway, and they lost 3. We were going to keep 6 in north for the next phase to start. So go ahead and do the next slide. And the 9600 baud appliance, the south end, like I said, was already gone. GD Hill was still not seeing anything north of Sam's point 9. North end, Greylock confirmed that 12 and 14 were there. They were waiting for 13 to show up. And there's some weird propagation on the north end. I'd have to go back and study my map to see if 12 could have copied 14 directly, or was 13 really in that path going down to Greylock. And then Sam's point, that's when I got the report that they had already gone home an hour before this. And Camelback 8 had to secure at 2:15. So the north end shut down, but we still had a big question between GD Hill and Maryland Mountains. So we took the time while they were on site to debug their 9600 baud setup on just that one link, with a conference call with both of them on the phone, able to voice talk to each other while they were watching packets fly. So go to the next one. So the summary was Roan 3 has a really tight sweet spot. You got to be in exactly the right place to work. And Jeff might be able to say more about that because he was working directly with Roan to try to get that sweet spot worked out. Sam's point 9 seems like it was a weak spot. If they were actually digipeating, it was certainly not reliable from what we saw. Bovina 10, however, might have actually been necessary. If Sam's point 9 is a weak spot, if you look at the way the map works, Bovina 10 might actually be able to cover what Sam's point 9 doesn't do well on one side or the other. Beyond 9, the north end just works. But guys, you up there on the north end, look at the height of your peaks and the fact that there's nothing between your station. It's no wonder they just come online for you. The well-placed eye gates were invaluable for me. I threw into the chat here in this call the file that has all the packets that I was able to see in the shack in real time to see how the chain was coming together. And they're all timestamped. The timestamps are UTC, so don't panic when you think everything's 4 hours off. I really wish all the eye gates that were out there were using the non-dupe suppressed backhaul, but if we do a session on packet capture, I'll talk about what all that is. So that's it for me, Jeff. Back to you and on the next slide.
All right, great. Thank you, Lynn. Incredibly insightful and helpful as always. So I think, it looks like we've got representation from just about every site, if not every site. So I'm really, really pleased with the turnout here. I know that Tim needs to go, Tim, and I think maybe John Huggins may need to go soon. I'm not really sure, but we can go out of order is fine. So we'll start with Tim Katahdin if you just want to take a minute or two, just share your thoughts. What was good, bad, fun? What would you do differently?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey everyone. Thanks. First of all, for everyone for doing this, because if you're not doing it, then I'm not doing it. I think I'll share my video here if it pops in. Anyway, so for me, I didn't make it to the summit this year due to weather, and the other reason is I was kind of overpacked this year, and I learned a lot. I mean, I've been doing this one for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years or something, this event. And it seemed like I learned something every year. And so I'm going to do a better job, I think, next year. I left at 4:30 in the morning this time, which was very early, but I'm getting older and slower. So, but I did make it up a little bit above 4,000 feet. And Brian AA1WI manning Sugarloaf made that a breeze because it was no problem. The other good thing this year for me, I heard John WA1KLI direct on Mount Washington. Even at 4,000 feet, we were able to talk pretty much like 5x7 with the HTs on the 70 centimeter frequency, which was awesome. So that worked out well. In years past, I had trouble talking with John or whatnot, but this year that seemed to work out well. So I'm very grateful for those gentlemen for being there. And real quick, I mean, at 1200 baud, I pretty much saw all the way down to Greylock right away. And then it looks, my data shows that I picked up all the way down to 6 at one point, but Lynn made things clear that maybe things were messed up a little bit. I also saw that other 15 station that kind of confused me, but I saw them. I didn't see the 1 station. So anyway, I'm limited to 5 watts. Kind of stinks. I did bring a 6 amp hour battery, which honestly, that kind of weighed me down. So I don't know if I'm going to stay with 5 watts or go up to 15 next time around, but I don't think it's going to make a difference with Sugarloaf. So I don't know what else to say other than that was awesome. I got soaked. It was thunder and lightning, and I was safe. So that's it, really. I mean, I'm jazzed up. I'm very jazzed up. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep, absolutely. John, I don't know if you're still stuck in Dallas or wherever, or did
I'm here. I'm here for the duration.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well, do you want to go anyway since I just called on you, so we'll just go with you?
Sure.
Go for it.
The big lesson learned this time, well, the equipment worked great. We over-engineered it pretty well. My son, who's not a ham, he is an excellent pack mule. And so I got pictures and videos. I just haven't had time to put it all together. But it's a D710 with a battery, all the good stuff, all packed into one little thing that slides into a bag. The antenna was a dual collinear vertical, and I keep the UHF separate as a beam, and that worked incredible. It was like 5.9 plus to AO Mountain. But we got to a late start. I got conned into taking him to Chick-fil-A and all this stuff. And it's been a long time since I've been to White Rock Cliff. I do remember now take them about 2.5 hours. We did the harder of the two trails. There's a trail loop. And so lesson learned for any of us that might want to do this is go counterclockwise because it's a much shallower incline. It's longer, of course, but so I'm going to say 3 hours from parking lot to top is a comfortable margin.
Wow.
For anybody who wants to do that. And It's a very easy hike. It's just long and takes a while. That's all.
Okay.
It's very beautiful. No
is it
fire
Virginia
roads.
or West Virginia?
It's right on the line. The White Rock Cliff is in Virginia. The trail itself, the Tuscarora Trail system, wavers right along that line.
Okay.
It moves along the crest. It's not fire roads. It's literally a wide gap and some weeds kind of trails. It's a lot of fun though. It's nice and cool. It's always in the shade. And once I finally got there, it was about, I guess I'll just say noon. We got there a little bit beforehand, and I was setting things up as quickly as I could. If I had a simpler system with less gain, I could have gotten up sooner, certainly. And I probably could get away with that, but I'll tell you why I want to keep it the next time in a moment. I heard the 1200 going on at right before noon. And then I think one of your meetings, I heard someone say, just stick to the schedule. And I knew it was going to 9600.
Yeah.
I heard 9600 from the south. I heard 1200 from the north. So I just immediately went to 9600. And that all just worked. It just worked fine. No surprise with Kenwoods. They actually work a whole lot better at 9600 than 1200 for some reason. And then I just sat back and watched what happened.
Awesome.
So let's see. I could definitely tell you from previous experience for the first 2 years, I was able to carry on a conversation with Berninga on GD Hill on 2 meters. We would sometimes talk on 340 frequency as we were ironing out whatever was going on. And I don't know if any of the evidence made its way to the packet lists, but I definitely heard GD Hill direct multiple times. Not many, but certainly plenty. Maryland Mountains was the next best, and it was rock solid to AO Mountain, which is the huge improvement from the Hawksbill link. So the links prove themselves, no doubt about it. You just got to get 3 hours ahead of time and get your butt there.
Thanks, John. Flip, you want to cover Springer?
Sure. So we were both newbies taking over Springer this year, and it was quite the experience. We enjoyed it a lot. We're actually on Oglethorpe Mountain, which is just below Springer, and getting up to Klingman's Dome was absolutely no problem because Klingman's is about twice as high as that point. So we enjoyed. We got up there early. I think we were starting up about 9:30 or 9:45, setting up kind of thing, and we're able to communicate via the Simplex channel with Jeff, and he helped us with some things. So it was great. It really went well. It was kind of an iffy morning at first, a little bit of drizzle here and there, and clouds moving over the mountain and stuff. But people were out for a hike later who stopped in to wonder what we were doing, and that was kind of fun to tell them what we were up to. And yeah, everything went pretty well overall, I would say. I don't really have a whole lot more to report. Ben, KO4 DSD, was with me. We're both newbies. He is not on the call tonight, I don't think. And what would we do differently next year? We were talking about actually making an adventure out of it. Like, I guess Tim, was it? Or someone, and actually drive near Springer and then hike up with all our stuff. So that's kind of what we're thinking about doing. Maybe even doing it the night before and being able to get up there early the next morning. So it was fun though. We enjoyed it. We were shooting out APRS packets as we drove up there, Lynn. I don't know if you saw that or not, but yeah, so we were having fun. It was good.
Nice.
Good day.
Thank you. Selfishly, Carlton and I'll go next up the chain. So if you guys didn't know, so typically I activate Springer, and the plan was originally for Flip and Ben to come with me and learn from me this year. But things changed. And so Greg, who typically operates or activates Klingman's, he wasn't able to make it. So I've always wanted to go, and my wife and I were looking for a reason to get out of town. So that's what I ended up doing. And Flip and Ben were kind enough to step up to the cause. Ben actually had a D710G, so it worked out really nicely. This is my first time to Klingman's Dome. Carlton, first time met Carlton in person, and we talked through text message and over the phone a couple of times. For me, I am never early, and I was on site, I think, at 8:05. So that was odd for me. Weather-wise, kind of sucked, but the equipment, at least the Kenwood setup, really could not have worked any better. I kind of built, like, jury-rigged a little mast to put up on the roof of my car, and then just popped open the trunk and used the back as like it was like a desk, and it worked out really nicely. I would love to go back again. If anything, though, there was so much foot traffic there, where people wanted to know if we were there for weather, if we were tracking animals, if we were from the government, like what it was that we were doing. Thankfully, I had a few hams that stopped by. They kind of knew what we were doing, including one of the National Park Service employees. But it kind of got annoying after a while, to be honest with you. It was like it was every few minutes. It was happening throughout the whole course of the day. So, Carlton, you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, it was very interesting. The traffic was actually what you were saying there, Jeff, pretty phenomenal. That people are asking questions and all that. So as far as a plug goes, that they got a mouthful. So I would just say that as far as the AT golden packet went, it was pretty productive. We were trying to do the 9600, and I had an issue with the packets being deciphered on 9600, but overall it was a good location and such. I did a trip later on to go farther up the path and all, but I don't know if that would have actually helped out in a situation with the AT, because there was, even though it was a better location, it didn't seem to be worthwhile.
I don't know how much more it would have made a difference. I would have liked to have done it too. Glenn, you want to talk about Roan and the steaks that you and Bill got to enjoy, and hot dogs?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, great.
Great. Yeah, let's see. What went good? Well, it worked once we found the little sweet spot. So like you guys had said earlier, I did have to move my antenna around just a little bit. I was off by one parking space. When we arrived at the top of the mountain, that was because somebody was about to pull into the space we used last year. And then things just sort of got chaotic, and we lost track of that. But anyway, we were able to sort that out fairly quickly. So yeah, good was that it worked once we got everything working, basically. What was bad, this is terrible to say, but what was bad this year was the crowds. And I hate to say that, because it's always great to have new people, who are interested in what you're doing. But this year was this was the most people that I've ever talked to. Between Bill and I, we were just, answering questions left and right. And it actually made it kind of difficult to keep track of what was going on during the event. But I think we did a fairly good job of that. What was fun, definitely the lunch. And we'll be doing that next year. Bill made a couple of ribeye steaks and some hot dogs, and a lot more food than we needed, but that's okay. Potato salad and baked beans, and we had a great lunch on top of the mountain. It was a lot of fun. What would we do different? I think that, and I've made this comment in previous years, I think we need to do some analysis of the path between Roan and Klingman's, and try to identify what those sweet spots are. I know that at Klingman's Dome, whoever is working there has a very limited area that they can operate, and a lot of that is driven based on what time they arrive and all of that, because I know the crowds there are exponentially worse than they are at any other site in the South for sure. Whereas in my situation at Roan, I've got a lot of different places that I can go in the park, and I've got a very forgiving link to the north to Comer's Rock. So I think with those in play, I think we can probably do some analysis in that radio mobile software and try to plot some exact locations and exact estimates with the coax we have and the antennas we have and whatnot, and try to find that sweet spot a little better. I will say that last year we had absolutely no issues reaching Klingman's Dome, and the only difference at Roan was one parking space over. So there are variables at both sites that we do have to consider. I think that's it. I had a good time. Thanks for organizing, and we'll do it again next year. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Moving up the chain here to Comer. So David, I see Josh, he's not on the call, but did you want to say a few words about Comer's?
Yeah, Comer's, we had a good trip this year. For those who don't know, basically about a 7-mile drive on a fire road. It's one lane off of the U.S. highway up there. So about 7-mile drive in, you get up there and you park, and then you hike up the last, it's probably not a couple hundred, I don't know, maybe 100 yards, but it's like vertical, it seems like. So it's pretty rough to get up there. So the three of us, myself, Josh, KM4AZW, and Chris, KY4QE, met up there at 9:30, got up on top of the mountain. That's an old fire tower, look outside, if you will. And all that's up there is a concrete pad that's about 10 by 12, something like that. But it's got a really good vantage point up high on top at 4,100 foot. So we quickly set up there, had a D710G, beaconing up real quick like, and then realized for whatever reason we weren't digipeating. It was still before 10 o'clock. So we quickly realized that we had lost a setting, had not stuck in the radio, so to speak. And so put that setting back in, and we were again digipeating on our way. So from there, really uneventful from our standpoint. Not many visitors up there. We probably had all total maybe 10 or 12 people stop by and see us, whatever like that. But the weather was called to be bad up there, and so that generally kind of keeps people down up there on there because it's kind of a rough drive in. So,
do you know anything about how Frank is doing? I hadn't heard from him at all.
Oh yeah, he's fine. He tore up his SUV, but he's fine, and yeah, he's back fully active again. What he was actually doing is that a couple of days before the event, I looked on Google Maps to verify everything was still good up there, and lo and behold, Google Maps said that Comer's Rock was closed.
Oh.
So I contacted him and said, hey, I can't get out that way right now. Can you make a run over to Comer's Rock and see what really is open or closed? And so he was on his way to Comer's Rock to verify it was open when he had the wreck. In the end, I ended up calling the state forestry folks and tracked somebody down and asked them if Comer's Rock was open or closed. And I got this, I think it's open. I said, well, that's your guys' site, right? I mean, you guys are responsible for it. She said, well, yeah, that's us. I said, well, is it open? So anyways, in the end, we made it up there, set up, uneventful, all went well. The rain came in about 1:45 on us. And I mean, you could just see it building and building. And I tried putting the 710 down in my truck, just down off the summit, and tried to see if we could, send packets out from there. And we were just in the shadow of the mountain at that point and couldn't do anything. So we ended up packing it up shortly after 1:45 and coming back down the mountain.
Thanks,
otherwise, good event. We're ready for next year again. So
excellent. We have to keep it tight here because we don't have as much time left as I was hoping we would. The hour goes by really quickly. Floyd, I never hear from you, so I'm going to ask for you to talk instead of Jason, but just maybe give us a minute or two, please.
Are you asking for Dwight?
I was asking for Floyd.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
FD.
Floyd, you're on mute. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Jason. If you want to take for him, that's fine too. I'm teasing.
He may, hopefully he's listening. He goes by FD, so that might be why. There he is.
Okay.
I'm
There he
here.
is.
Yeah, I'm not in a position to talk currently, trying to get some stuff done.
That's okay, Jason.
Hello,
you wanna do-
everyone, and had a blast. Jason's got it covered.
Jason, super quick version, please.
Okay, thanks to my team. I had an awesome team this year. I had FD, K4FDS, Brian Brindle, who's also on the call, KW4KB, and Daryl Little, KI4LLA. We had a great team. FD's son also, Gage, he came, and he's we think we're gonna get him licensed soon, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, we had a good time up there. We basically duplicated what we did last year with the exception of a couple of things. I ran into a very interesting issue this year that I didn't have last year. My cellular hotspot that I had set up last year, this year for some reason was producing a nasty noise right on top of 144.39. It was almost like it was a tuned thing. So that killed my iGate. I had to take that all down, so that was why I didn't have an iGate at the last minute. Cellular's a little bit spotty up there too, so I couldn't do it with my phone. Anyways, a lot of good stuff. The appliance, I was really disappointed. It worked last year, this year, even with all my testing, just didn't appear to start up correctly no matter what we did, or it would lock up, and we just did not have much luck with it this year, so that was unfortunate. Definitely would like to see an option for some kind of status display. I know I've discussed this with a few other people who agree. Everything's fun about this event. I love it. We can drive right up to the site, which makes it a lot easier. And I don't know what we would necessarily do that much differently other than maybe just bring a little less stuff. I did kind of overbring, but I had the ability to do that since I can drive right up to the site, and we set up a pop-up tent, 5 feet from my my back bumper. So,
Thanks,
anyways,
Jason.
that's the best I can get in that short amount of time.
Appreciate that.
All
And we already talked to John at White Rock. So, Jim, a couple of words from you, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, did we lose him? I thought I saw him. He may have disappeared. Maybe he got stage fright. Moving up the chain then to Ron at GD Hill.
Hey, Jeff, hey, Lynn, hey, everybody. Yeah, first time at GD Hill. What was good? It worked. Very easy setup. I literally put the box of my 710 into my backpack with a BioNO 15 amp hour battery and a magnet mount antenna for that I was sitting in my garage. Tested it, made sure it was working. Since I knew I was going solo, I was not wanting to take a lot of equipment up to the top to a 66-foot tower. So I took a gamble that cage on the top was all metal and that I would be tall enough to be able to get that magnet mount antenna through the roof, through the top and mount it on there. So which I was able to do, which made it pretty easy. So all I did was open the box, connect the radio, connect it to the battery, big mistake. Couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And I realized I never connected the antenna to the back of the radio.
Oops.
So I was like, gosh, I hope I didn't burn anything up. But I connected the antenna and it started banging. I had the NEI NEIDER-1. Couldn't figure out how to, it was, I put that on there with the message with my call sign in it, just so it wouldn't. Anyway, bottom line is I turned the radio off because I couldn't figure out how to stop it from digipeating, and because I wanted to use it to look for the package, but I couldn't figure out in the menu to the life of me to get it to stop digipeating, so I just finally turned it off.
Sorry to cut you off here, Ron. We got to keep things really tight.
Just a real quick thing, Jeff. It wasn't a problem with it with digipeating. You were trying to make it stop beaconing, as I recall.
That's yeah, that's it. With the big beaking.
Yeah.
Bottom line, got it done. What was bad? I do not like heights. And,
okay.
And the other thing is if you're up there by yourself, go to the bathroom and do everything, because that's what I prepared for. Once I got up there, I wasn't coming down till it was over. So I had water and stuff with me, but I didn't feel comfortable climbing down a 6 foot tower to go find someplace to go to the bathroom. So I took care of all that because there's just nothing up there. Did have one ham come by and chat with me. He gave me some possible sites for next year. Looked them up. The one wasn't too good, so would do differently next year. The minimalist approach works if we're using that. I'm actually looking for some other drive-up sites that are at a higher elevation, and I'll work with Jeff and Lynn and do some testing on those between now and next year. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you. All right, for Camelback, I don't see Matt on, but Dr. Hamilton, I missed you on. I wasn't able to get to meet you before the event, so apologies. But if you want to take a minute or two, we'd love to hear from you, your experience at Camelback.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Yep. Yeah, no, Matt was awesome. He had everything ready. I had my stuff ready. We had like full redundancy. I think we would have been fine either way. I now that I'm hearing everyone else, I'm realizing why it was so easy for us, because we just drove up to our site. So it's a pretty awesome site. It was really, really nice day, really cool to get out there. He had this like crazy I say crazy, but it was just a nice setup. He had a basically a telescoping tower that he put up that he kind of like anchored to his vehicle.
Oh my goodness.
I set mine up. I was behind him for a while. Then I took my drone out to take some pictures, which I sent out to the group. I can upload those to the Google Drive too. We started getting stations as soon as we started setting up. There wasn't like any issues that I could see from our end. We were just trying to figure out if we were going to see stations come all the way through. The only thing that I would say that was problematic for us was maybe there was a comms tower that was real nearby, so we'll probably get some intermod or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the simplex voice frequency was like almost a disaster for us. We would get a bunch of traffic that sounded like probably DMR or something like that, and then we would get there's a repeater. I think he tried to find it. I think we actually found it, but the output of the frequency that we were on is apparently dual use for simplex and a repeater. So that frequency wasn't good for our location. But the cool thing is we were getting some pretty good range from where we're at. So other than that, pretty easy to set up. He had the appliance, but it wasn't configured. He just picked it up and brought it out there, and then we didn't have time to configure it. So other than that, the Kenwood side, I had literally like a full redundant backup from what he had. I didn't have mine transmitting. I was just receiving packets, and then I was looking at his, and then we were watching it digipeat. So, but other than that, it was a great day, and first time for me to go out and do this. So I'm fairly confident I could go out there and do something close to what he did, other than his antenna was up pretty darn high. I would have to figure out how to get a mast like that. I don't know if it was necessary because we were up pretty high and there wasn't a lot of trees around us. So it probably would have worked off of just kind of my setup. But his setup was obviously the better one that we went with.
Cool. Thank you. I think we're moving up here. So Mr. Bossart, you want to talk about Sam's Point real quick?
Sure. So this was my second year taking part in the event. I was hopeful that Dwight was going to join me. I know he's been at the site in years past, but he took the glory spot of Equinox. So I was going to be alone. Then I tried to pull in Steven, who we just heard from. But we had some like last minute changes where we didn't think that we were actually going to have anyone at Camelback. So Steven was going to do that. And then Matt appeared, and then we had that double redundancy down there. So for second year, I was alone, being attacked by the mosquitoes, and not a nice spot. In terms of what was good, I did a little bit additional prep compared to the year prior. So instead of a shorter mast, I went a little longer. I think that seemed to help a bit. But man, I wish I overpaid for like a Kenwood at some point, because I think what I had really just wasn't cutting the mustard. That was probably the biggest issue that I ran into. Maybe some improvements on the equipment. 9600 baud continues to be an issue there for some reason. Lots of intermod. That's what Steven said. I was talking to them back and forth on simplex, but we had to kind of time our communications just so perfectly because we could barely hear each other, either over my intermod, because on Sam's Point, there was like 5 or 6 really busy comm sites. And the later that I got in the day, I ran into 2 issues. Lots of intermod, both on VHF and UHF, which were making issues. And then also the parks people came by and said, we're going to be dropping some grapple, so you got to be off the road because you can't be driving here. So that was kind of annoying. I had a lot of fun. I think it was great. I would love to try to get somebody to help for next year. So that I think is the biggest thing. I only had one visitor from a dad and his kid who they shouldn't have been down this comm road. So that was pretty much it. But yeah, otherwise, not much more else to report. I'll just keep it short and keep it rolling so we can stay on time.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Mr. Rudolph is not here from Bovina, so Don or Michael, can't do both, but one of you real quick, go.
All right. Don Rolfe, AB1PH. Mike and I manned Greylock. Drove up, got there, order 9:30. Hooked the battery up to the 710, put the 710 onto a mag mount, and by about 9:45, we were distributing packets. And as people came up, we were seeing them. We then set up the larger antennas, had problems with one power supply, so I ran the appliance off of the automobile electrical system, and that limits me to 10 watts. But even on 10 watts with the appliance, I was able to get cleanly to Equinox, to Sugarloaf, and to Mount Washington. I think we were getting all the way to Katahdin, but I'm not sure on that. We also saw back down to Sam's Point, but to be honest, below 11, our communications were spotty. I wasn't sure what was going on all the time. It was fun. I would do it again next year. The power supply that acted up had a loose power pole connector, so I would go test that more. There's an odd quirk in the V71, setting it up to 9600. You can get tricked to think you did it, and it didn't, so I won't make that mistake. I set it up with iGates running off the appliance. So I was running the appliances essentially the entire time. And I did that so we could do and-serve messaging back and forth. It didn't look like we did much and-serve messaging, and that means I could switch the iGate onto the 710 if we're not going to use and-serve. Any quick additions, Mike?
Yeah, one quick one I would add on, similar to something somebody said earlier. We also had a lot of foot traffic, people asking us what we were doing. Question that came up multiple times was, are we helping the hikers? It might be interesting next year to think about doing something in addition to just sending beacons. Maybe do kind of quick tricks, like send a message from 11 out, like, hi, this is Sally in Massachusetts, and then have someone, Maryland sends one back, hi Sally, this is Maryland, or something like that. But have the public generate messages into the system. Might be kind of cool.
I like it. All right. I hate to do this because I hate rushing people, but I'll give you 60 seconds each for the remaining 3. So we'll move on to Mr. Tarbox.
Hi, as I'm Mount Washington, they opened the auto road to this top at 9:30. I arrived at the top and was on the air at 10 and immediately received packets from Equinox, Greylock, and Tim. I stepped out of my van with my Biofang, got on 440 and had voice comms with all those stations with the handheld Biofang. Everything basically worked good there, including with Sugarloaf, who came on shortly thereafter. And the one thing I would say about the north end is that, we prepared. Brian, Tim, and I got together the week before and spent a bunch of time and tested all our radios, and which meant that all that testing paid off because they all just came up working on the day of the event. Encourage everybody to do that. And second thing, in my opinion, is on the north end between Katahdin down to Greylock, if any one of the intermediary stations were to go off the air, I think the chain would still work, which is a great form of redundancy. That's it for me.
Thank you, John. I ended up inadvertently skipping over Dwight at Equinox. So Dwight.
Hi, good evening, guys. I'll be real quick here. I was very happy to be at a new location today or this time. I'm sorry I abandoned Steve this year, but there was an opening and I felt that I need to fill that one. I used a telescoping flagpole mast I bought from Harbor Freight, and it goes up about 20 feet. I had it mounted to the back of my trailer. I'm sorry, my receiver on the back of the truck. And it went up, I think, a total of 22 feet plus or minus with a Diamond D50 or something like that, dual band antenna. I had a little intermod, not too much. I was not at the top at the visitor center. I was close to it, but the park, not ranger, but the steward up there, he didn't really want me there. He wanted me a little further away. So I was down the hill a little bit, but it seemed to work out pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with how everything worked, and I don't want to take any more time. So over to you, Jeff.
All right, and then last but not least here, we got Brian up at Sugarloaf.
Hi, from Sugarloaf. Yes, I just want to say that I really enjoyed preparing for the last year. I really learned a lot from this group, and I got a lot of good tips from John, Tim, Lynn, Don, whether they know it or not. And I think I should have been Sugarloaf TAC 15 because I think Tim and John could communicate well by themselves. And but I did feel like I was kind of the last, but that's okay. It worked out great. And it's a lot easier in the home lab than it is on the site. I packed too much on the way up. I packed way too much. I had my helper, which was my 23-year-old boy, failed to show up. So I had 2 backpacks. I had to ditch one because I could not carry all the gear, and inadvertently ditched the water. I did not want to repack, and I did not know that the water was in a particular backpack. So I didn't have any water from about 9:30 in the morning till about 4:30 in the afternoon. By the time I got up there, I was hyperventilating. And I never stopped hyperventilating until I got back down in the car.
I'm glad you made it back down. I apologize. We don't have much time left, so we kind of need to bring it back. But thank you so much to everybody for going around here. We got a little bit more to get through. Appreciate you guys for hanging in there. This is the slide that's hard for me to go over because I was told to take it easy on everybody by several people. I had never been a team player in the past, so for me to be part of a team has always been a stretch. The Golden Packet is a team event, at the end of the day. It is not POTA, it's not SOTA. It is a commitment too. It's not a very big commitment. I did the math, right? It's 8,760 hours in a year. We asked for 10. So it's not really that significant. If you put more time in it, that's fine, but the commitment is 10 hours, effectively end to end. When you commit to the event, though, you're committing to 20 to 30 other people that were all depending on you. And so, last minute changes, if you're going to be late, you're going to have some sort of a problem. There's got to be some contingency planning. There's got to be ways of keeping communication with other people on your team, keeping communications with people at adjacent sites. Heck, become friends with each other. I know, a scary thing, right? But one person will inevitably have an effect on the entire chain. It may not be easy to see it, but Lynn and we see it every year. And we try and do as much from a contingency planning standpoint as we can. But each person, if they take on their own their own set of responsibilities and minds after themselves, and keep an eye on whoever is also at their site. You guys keep an eye on each other and be a team. The better that synergy is, and the more conscientious we are of the fact that everybody depends on everybody else, the better this event is. And there's a lot of regulars, there's a lot of new people, and all of the people that are in this group are absolutely amazing. I keep coming back every year because not just because of the event itself, but because of everybody who I've met here. And I feel like I've gotten close with just about everybody on this call. And so I feel like I can rely on all of you guys, and I hope that you can rely on me. Just please, if you're going to commit to this event in the future, just make sure that you keep it in the forefront of your mind. It is a team event, and we definitely want everybody to have fun. Not necessarily stress out about it, but At the same time, just understand that what you bring to the table is a critical component to this event, and it can't be successful without each and every one of us. And so I'm going to stop beating it up after that. Lessons learned. Logistics seems to continue to be the #1 issue. It either not enough equipment, too much equipment, not understanding your equipment, not understanding the things that you need to do to test. I don't know that we can say test enough. Last year was the first year that I actually put a concerted effort into testing, and both last year and this year, the moment I opened my radio, turned my radio on, I was getting packets. Lynn and I, we end up inevitably talking to people and kind of coaching them through. I think we find, sure, there are some people who spend time testing beforehand and yet still run into problems. Other people are not really testing until they get there. And unfortunately, at that point, it is too late. Knowing your equipment is incredibly important. I sent out the video, link to the video and the slides to program the radio and to factory reset it. Hint, hint, there was actually a hidden message in that. And that message is, I wanted you guys to know how to program the radio from the front faceplate. Out of all the radios I own, and there's quite a few, the Kenwood is by far the easiest radio I own to program. You guys got to be prepared if you're ever somewhere where you can't get to a computer, you don't have that safety blanket to rely on. You need to know how to program the radio from the front faceplate. And the more you do it, the more intimately aware of the capabilities of that radio that you become. But also, this is an APRS event, and there's a variety of different levels of knowledge from beginners to experts and everything in between that are part of this event. There is no better place to learn APRS than this. I'm sorry, there just really isn't. So there are some things that we expect you to learn about it, and we provide it. We don't do a good enough job of providing you guys with the knowledge. If you want it, you're not asking for it. We're not asking you what you need enough. I'm not sure what the problem is. In terms of if maybe you guys are just scared to ask or whatever have you. But Lynn and I had a long talk over the weekend, and we want to come up with a series to teach you guys more about APRS for those that are interested in it. I'm interested in it because I still consider myself a novice, but understanding if your equipment is digipeating is #1. And then, test, and test again. You can't test too much. Thoughts for next year. As much as an hour for each stage of the event seems like a good idea, weather is inevitably a problem. It's 2,200 miles from end to end. There's going to be some sort of weather event in between inevitably. It's a guarantee. It's going to happen in one or more places, and it always ends up popping up after 12 o'clock. So the earlier we get started, the shorter that we can keep the stages, the better the chances that we have of getting through the event, being successful, and not getting to a point where either people have to leave because they've got a long trip or they're going to get hit in the head with a lightning bolt. We want to make sure that people arrive safely, they leave safely, they have a good time where they're there. So, we're considering maybe shortening it to 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Totally open to your perspective after the event. We've got a long time between now and ATGP 24. We've got plenty of time to discuss it. But again, myself being the late owl, the earlier the better. I couldn't agree. Getting there at 8 o'clock was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe how much time I had after I got everything set up. I have been trying to figure out how to get more than one person at every single site every year, and inevitably we still have sites that only have one person at them. John and Lynn and I talked. One of the things that we're considering for next year, and again, tonight's not necessarily the night to talk about it, but we'll talk about it more in the future, is to find and see if there are local clubs or organizations that have hams in them that are in the vicinity of the sites, so that maybe we can get a club to sponsor a site, and that way you've got a bunch of different people that all come to the table and they all support that particular site. I think it's important to have a captain for each site. So if we've got 2 or more people, even one person could be captain. I don't know, arm wrestle, whatever it is. But there has to basically be a leader for the site. I expect that you guys talk with each other at least once or twice before the event. And the more that you communicate, the better. We're hams. We like communication. There should be no reason why we don't do it. And we still do have some sites that are just not in proximity to cell phones. They have bad simplex connectivity for whatever reason, whether it's intermod, just, bad adjacency, whatever the case is. So maybe we look at other options. I've been toying with the idea of getting one of those little Garmin spots. Sometimes I go in places where there's just no options, right? Somebody could send a text message through a spot if they had one. Just ideas, right? Not saying go out and buy one, but just some ideas. More thoughts about next year is, we got to have plans if something goes wrong. Let's say 2 people at a site, one person can't make it. Well, probably only one of those 2 people has the radio. So what do you do if that person can't make it and you're the one that has to go out? So contingency planning is really, really important. Ideas. So we started the knowledge share calls 2 years ago. Those have basically become a lot more like club monthly meetings than like what I had originally envisioned. We can turn them into trainings, APRS training. We can turn them into whatever you guys want to. And I don't want to necessarily put you guys on the spot in front of entire group. If you have ideas, you want to email me, you want to text me, you want to call me, whatever it is, I'm here for you guys. I love this event. I still do this out of honor and respect and just, admiration for Bob. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but I know he sees us when we're out on the trail for the event. And so I'm here for you guys. You guys come to me with anything that you want, you need, any ideas that you may have. I may not be able to turn things around as quickly as you want. I've got a crazy busy job. But I'm here. I'm committed to this event. I'm committed to you guys, and I'm committed to the success of every individual that's out there on the trail. I need to breathe, but I think save the date. So ATGP 24 is the third. We're always the third Saturday in July, so that becomes July 20th, 2024. We got a long time between now and then, but inevitably it does end up coming up on us very quickly. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight, for your time out on the trail, leading up to it, afterwards, everything in between. You guys were awesome. And, thank you so much for being part of Golden Packet. Look forward to seeing you on the group, in the knowledge share sessions, wherever. Just love having you guys here, and just keep coming back.
I'll second all those thank yous. We can't say that one enough. You guys are a fantastic group of people to work with. I love it.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. We'll talk soon.
Thank you all. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks all of you for your and wonderful efforts.
Yep.
Take care, guys.
Wonderful.
Here, thanks.
See you next time.
Have a good night, guys.